Guyol and his wife Myrtle were set to go to the theater in 1935, and as they walked out to the car, a man came out from the bushes and said, "Eddie, you know you've got this coming." But that is the legend there was a man in the bushes right by the driveway, and I can see that picture in my head, and they just nailed him. And so,
Did he die right away? I mean, was he killed instantly, like on the spot?
2 shots were fired, and the bullet went through his cheek and into his brain,
Yeah,
and
that'll
he
do it.
was instantly killed, and he slumped over the steering wheel, and his wife Myrtle ducked while the fire was coming in. And what's also interesting is Eddie had $2,500 in his pocket. I don't carry $2,500 in my pocket today.
Yeah.
That's what he had. That money was not taken. Myrtle had expensive jewelry, and the man didn't take that either. So it was. I mean,
It
it was
wasn't a robbery. They were get this guy out of the game.
definitely a
So
hit.
the wife lived.
The wife lived.
Okay, that's how she knows. We know what he said.
We'll get to the wife in a little bit too.
There's more.
So he died at that night at the hospital. And the Atlanta Constitution's main headline the next morning said, "Eddie Guyol, Atlanta's numbers game leader, slain in racket killing in fashionable section." So the death of Eddie Guyol would become a nationwide story, and detectives would work to try to solve this case, but had no leads for months. And despite his massive influence as this racketeer, no one knew why he was murdered. And so Cutliff, his partner, was now at the top of the organization by himself, and he received his own warning when a man called the house and told his wife what happened Tuesday night might happen again. The investigation has gone on for a bit. That night, actually, a man named Lieutenant C.E. McCrary showed up, and he had arrived at the scene with 2 cars full of officers. But they didn't really have much to go on other than seeing Guyol dead in the driveway in the car. And despite him being on the case and his position on the force, he said he had no idea that Guyol was the leader of the numbers racket. So this is all news to him. And then I read this side piece that I guess I believe, but it's so outrageous in modern times, that there was a woman theory that was thrown around. And the language of the time to describe why this could never be possible was absurd. In the Atlanta Journal, just 2 days after the murder, Cutliff said, "That slug came out of a .45, and that is too heavy for a woman. Not 1 out of 1,000 women would use a gun that big. Besides, a woman would have more likely dropped the gun."
Yeah, there's old 1935's
Rearing its
equality
head.
for you. Yeah.
Because those guns, you can barely pick them up with your... it's outright. I mean, it just makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
This isn't...
It just goes to the way that like it was things were thought about women at the time, which is so crazy. But there's some element of, I don't want to say truth to that because that's not the right way to put it, but a woman typically probably wouldn't have, you know what I mean? It was like if they were going to use a gun, they probably would have used something smaller. So there's some kind of like, I get the thinking there,
Yeah.
but completely ridiculous nonetheless to say
Right.
that it's impossible.
It's not like picking up a bazooka.
Right,
and
yeah,
starting to
yeah.
fire it.
You're
Yeah,
not
like-
picking up a M16 and